to Sanshiro's Boys. This is your co-host, Tim Amatuli.
And I'm Chris Cote.
And today we're talking about yet another weird anomaly in Kurosawa's filmography, The Quiet Duel from 1948, which is not part of the Criterion Channel and is like the only film before 1980 that he made that's not part of the channel, outside of Uma, which doesn't count, and Those Who Make Tomorrow, which doesn't exist.
Yeah, it's a movie so weird that it's not even produced and with all the other films. We had to watch it on YouTube on a very not great rendering. And I don't know if we watched the same one, because I had this issue where all my subtitles were 5 seconds late. So every time someone would speak, there'd be no subtitle, and then it would show up afterward, and I had to try really hard to figure out who was saying what.
Oh, damn. I'm not a pauper, so I have the DVD of it.
Oh, yeah, well, forgive me for not owning the most obscure.
Was it like that the whole time? Because I checked certain parts of it, and it seemed to line up okay.
Maybe, I don't know, maybe I was thinking maybe I could reload it, but I just didn't do it. It was fine. I could tell what was going on.
So this film was made at Daiei Studios instead of Toho, and this was following the third Toho dispute with all sorts of continued union issues and trouble with the higher-ups and all that, like crew and actors and everything. So it's a total mess over there, and finally Kurosawa had to leave and went over to Daiei, which he had connections at due to being an assistant director. So for their first film together, they actually adapted The Quiet Duel from a contemporary play, and he did it specifically with Mifune in mind.
I like that. It's once again Mifune and Takashi Mora just hanging out, being father and son.
Literally reversing his role from the last film.
Yeah.
He specifically wanted to break Mifune's typecasting because he was being typecast as a gangster since he was, revealed to the public. And he said there's no greater disservice to an actor than typecasting them because they're not constantly, developing and trying new things. It's akin to, planting a tree and then never watering it, to just have them do the same thing out of convenience.
That's fair. That's very sweet of him to, go to this effort to help Mifune. And Mifune does a great job.
When we say that Kurosawa loves Mifune, he really, really loves him. And, they both owe each other their careers, truthfully. Both of them elevate each other's work so much.
Yeah, this is a great film for Mifune. He does, a wonderful job. He's the lead. He's basically everywhere in every scene all the time.
It is a non-stop feast for the eyes.
Takashi Shimura is just kind of hanging out there how you doing, son? Are you winning, son?
Me injecting myself with syphilis medication. Are you winning, son?
You got syphilis, son? Yeah, that was the film. But I guess now we should get into a plot summary of the film. Dr. Kyoji Fujisaka contracts syphilis after cutting his finger while operating on Japanese soldier Nakata. Returning home to the stigma the disease causes, he chooses to break off his engagement to Misao in order to save her from wasting her life on him. Years later, Fujisaka finds Nakata and discovers that he has impregnated his wife Akiko and infected her and his unborn child. The soldier cannot accept the reality of his situation, and their baby is stillborn. Akiko recovers in the hospital while Fujisaka continues to devote his life to helping patients. But yeah, this was a interesting film. It was very subdued until the end, almost Tarantino-esque in that, it's very calm until, a lot of shit happens at the end.
Yeah, and it's cool because that's, kind of a break from a lot of methodology in Eastern cinema where, it usually boils but doesn't boil over. Things are constantly simmering but never exploding. Exploding is more of, a Western thing that happens in a climax, so it's interesting to have him have this break at the end.
Yeah.
This film is a lot more contained and everything. It's a much more of a smaller scale production, which is kind of attributed to it being the first one at Daiei rather than Toho, where he's had the ability to have more resources to himself. This time, he kind of has to make do with less. And luckily the hospital is a big set, but it isn't anything super crazy. Every scene pretty much is taking place in a different hallway or office.
Yeah, I was gonna say, outside of the opening, they never leave the hospital, right?
Yeah, they go to the police station once, and then they're walking outside, but I don't think they ever go to a house or anything. Oh, and they go to that restaurant, the bar. I think they go to 2 bars. But those are really quick scenes. It's almost entirely in the hospital.
Yeah, which is cool. It's cool to see a very, we'd call it now a pared down character drama in limited locations.
And I gotta say, this one is really my speed. It's the kind of films that I like. It is mostly about one place, the things going in and out of it. I really just dig the premise of it so much. This guy who gets this disease, how it affects his life, and that he's such a good person to have such tragedy befall him for being virtuous. I think it's really sad.
I'm of two extreme minds about the premise of the film. One hand, I would love that he gets syphilis, but I love the premise of, through no fault of his own, he gets this sexual disease and it totally ruins his life. I also, though, hate movies that are premised on a character not telling another character a basic piece of information, and a lot of drama coming out of that like always really bothers me. But this was probably the best I've ever seen it done. Even though it still bothered me, it was like probably one of the best justifications for it I've ever seen. Even though I still think it kind of fails.
It's definitely an issue.
Yeah.
When it comes to him getting the syphilis, though, I think the opening of this film is amazing. This torrential downpour, all this stuff going on in this tropical setting and everything. Him doing the surgery, it's so hot, he's being wiped down. They got that little leak in the roof, and just like they did in One Wonderful Sunday, they bring out that little dishpan to catch the water, and so it's creating like this rhythmic dripping that's like causing him more stress and all that. Just like when you see him put that knife down the wrong way and he gets those gloves taken off, you just know immediately, like, oh, no, like, because that's just like a squeamish thing, and you just know that can't be good.
Yeah, even when he takes his gloves off, you're like, oh, he's like, I thought of myself dumbly, the gloves are off now, and they really are, because he gets whole ass syphilis from this idiot that he's trying his best to heal in this, like, military hospital.
Yeah, and then just, like, when he cuts it, and he's like, holy crap, I gotta keep doing this. That's what I think tells us a lot about his character, though, is how much time would it have really taken for him to just, bandage it up and, like, put gloves on. He's so committed that he just goes right back into this guy because he's dying at that moment, and he just doesn't have that time. Like, it really showed to me immediately that Kyoji, like, puts other people before him, and, like, he's going to suffer for that, and I think that's horribly tragic. And you just know, like, he gets that test results back and everything, and the guy can't even bear to tell him.
I know. Yeah, that was brutal.
Because, like, how do you break it to the guy? He didn't even get to have fun getting an STD.
Oh, that's what at the beginning, I was like, my Letterboxd review is just going to be the biggest tragedy of all time. Men get syphilis without getting laid. Like, it's so sad.
Yeah, it really is a blue ball movie. Like, it's just him being blue balled by a disease, like, not even by himself. He's being blue balled by his morals.
I know.
Like, of, like, not wanting to kill the love of his life. It's really a coronavirus movie.
Yeah, I'm sure the story resonates extra hard now in quarantine. I tell you, it is both tragic and kind of funny when the big emotional climax of the film is him being like, man, I want to fuck so bad, but I can't. Like, that is the breakdown, is I want so badly to have sex with my wife, but I can't, and now I never will. And then, okay, I'm not going to lie, I thought, and I think this is basically every time I watch an old movie, why can't he and Minaguchi just have sex? And then never in a million years did I think she would say, well, why don't we just have sex? I was like screaming. I was like, Style solves your problem, going like, yeah, yes. like losing my mind because I was like...
Yeah, play a jazz riff.
Never thought that would happen.
Did you not hear me just talk about how I have syphilis?
Yeah, she was like, what if theoretically there was a woman who didn't care that you had syphilis and wanted to bone? And he was like, what are you talking about? She's like, me. It was amazing.
Yeah, and he's like, I gotta get back to work.
Yeah, then they ignore it doesn't happen. Of course, it doesn't. If it actually happened, I would have given this movie a 5. But no, it doesn't happen. It makes sense. It doesn't happen. It would be out of character. But I was like, oh my god, they actually did it. They actually did the thing that makes the most sense for these characters.
I actually found her character to be pretty interesting.
I liked her a lot.
I like that they use her as kind of like a way of telling time.
Her life is actually changing while everyone else's isn't.
Yeah, and I like that there's like this duality between them because they both have this thing like metastasizing inside them.
When syphilis wants a baby, it's kind of a tough comparison.
Kyoji's got this disease that he like probably can't cure and is totally ruining his life. And Minagishi is having this baby grow inside her that she doesn't want. She was suicidal, wanted to kill herself. She's got like a real tragic backstory that they kind of like allude to without getting too specific. I mean, like they get into like abortion talk and everything. Like it's like, whoa, this is like late 40s and we're talking about hot button stuff like this.
Yeah, not only saying she should have an abortion, saying, guys, I'm so pissed you didn't let me get an abortion. Come on. like wanting one proudly without apology, not feeling bad about it. That was cool.
She's a cool character. And then, like there's 2 major time jumps in this movie. And I really like that they use her having the baby as a time jump. It doesn't explicitly give any title card beyond the first one, which says that the movie starts in 1944.
There's like season changes.
Yeah, exactly. Well, there's the seasonal changes as well, which are happening like when we're seeing, mostly like that one wall.
Yeah, it's like a fence.
Oh, it's like now it's got rain, now it's got snow, now it's got sunshine, all that.
Yeah, which is pretty.
I really like movies that take place all at like one time. That's just how I prefer them.
I also like that too, yeah.
So, and I really, really hate, screenwriting coincidences and everything. I really like that they didn't contrive a reason for Nakata to suddenly show up at the hospital, like, right after, Kyoji got back from the war and everything.
Yeah, it feels very natural.
There was so much time, and like the baby isn't even like a, you know, fresh newborn. Like months and months have passed, and it's like we're picking up here because this is where that story thread continues. It wasn't forced. It was like, oh, this is just like real life. Probably like 8 months have gone by since like the middle of the movie. I really like that. I really like the way that they use her in that way, and how she has this change of heart watching this good man deal with these things and realizing, like, I don't know if her arc is that she realizes that other people have it worse than her, and that's why she decides to remain pregnant. Because I don't think that's great, but I don't think it's exactly that.
I don't know. I think it's like some people are moral. I could also be moral like this brilliant man.
But I do think that the first time jump from the war to him being back at the hospital is pretty clunky. I think that's where like one of the main problems of the movie happens.
Yeah, right off I was like, oh my god, just tell your wife you have syphilis. You're causing her so much pain. And then the nurse learns that he has syphilis and gets really mad at him because she's like, how dare you attack me? Then you learn at night that, like, he got it through no fault of his own, and he's actually the most moral man in the world.
Shocker, Toshiro Mifune's perfect.
Yeah, they call him a saint, and then his dad's like, that's too much.
Yeah, tone it down.
Takashi Shimura's like, I still hate this guy from the last movie. You can't do this to me.
Yeah, he's now playing a good doctor instead of a drunk asshole.
Yeah, drunken angel. The reason it's different why Dr. Kyoji won't just tell his wife that he has syphilis is because he knows that his wife is, like, so virtuous that she will just wait for him to get better from the disease. And he's like, I can't do that to her. She's, like, this, like, wonderful person, and she has a lot left to live. I don't want her to wait, like, 5 years just waiting for me to get better.
Yeah, I think that's so sad. Like, I actually really, really like that conflict a lot, and, like, I wish it could be... The thing is, I wish that we were picking up post-war earlier on, because it's implied that he's like been home for a while and just keeps blowing her off.
Yeah, which is so weird.
I think it really should have been like we see him get home from the war and start blowing his wife off because he just is having this conflict of like, I don't know how to tell her.
Yeah, that definitely would have been better. It's weird how long it goes.
Yeah, it seems like something that would have been resolved a lot earlier, and I think that the reason that it doesn't is because it gets intertwined with Nakata's story with him and Akiko, his wife.
Yeah, which, like, works. It gets into Nakata and Miniguchi with, like, her being mad at him and stuff. Like, that all has to happen. That needs, like, time.
Yeah, I think it works, but I do think that the film becomes kind of unfocused as a screenplay. Also, this movie was, like, put through, like, American censors and everything, which changed certain things.
Oh.
Changed the ending, because they were originally going to have Kyoji go crazy from syphilis, which they were like, that's probably not good, and I totally agree.
Yeah, that's tough. I mean, it would be kind of cool, but...
Yeah, well, listen, there'll be plenty of times for us to watch Toshiro Mifune freak out later on in Kurosawa's filmography. Like, this wasn't really the one to watch a man go crazy with syphilis. That's not, like, the kind of ending I'm looking for.
Yeah. Did they explain, like, why? It's just because he was at war too long and he couldn't heal it, whereas, like, everyone else is like, oh, it's totally manageable. Just, you know, take the medicine and you'll get better in a few years. But he was just like, oh, I can't.
Yeah, he was just saying, like, yeah, he was going place to place and never really had the proper, like, resources to manage it, but he couldn't, like, pull himself out of the war because he got sick. Especially with syphilis, which, like, everyone's just gonna assume he's, like, having sex with prostitutes or something. Like, it's the moral and social shame of this disease specifically.
Yeah, that all makes sense, yeah.
This same movie wouldn't have worked without it being an STD.
No, yeah, that was very key to the movie, which is, like, makes sense why he doesn't tell his wife at first, but the fact that he can explain it, and he does to his dad's like, I can't believe you're a fucking whore, my son. He's like, wait, I got it from a patient. And he's like, oh my god, I'm so sorry. And I was like, why can't you just do that with your wife? Like,
I do get why he's like, I don't want this woman to waste her life for me. And, you know, like, as a doctor, he's just making sacrifice after sacrifice and working so hard to save people.
He's another Mr. Too Damn Honorable.
We see him saving that little kid who, like, finally farts, and then the entire hospital erupts into applause, which is an insane moment.
Yeah, I couldn't handle it. I was like, I'm turning my brain off until this is over. Like, the guy hit a harmonica. It was cute.
I did love that scene with Kyoji and his dad, where they both kind of sit together and you kind of see, like, father and son doctors, and they both try to light each other's cigarette.
Oh, yeah, that was very sweet.
They're just so, like, on the same wavelength, which I love, because, like, last time watching Drunken Angel, they're so opposite.
Yeah, they're at odds. You're just begging them to get along.
That it's nice to see them just be friends for once. But yeah, poor Misao. Just feel terrible for her.
Yeah, well, that was the thing. I was like, oh, that's a good reason. I guess you won't tell her. And then he's like, I just can't do this. And she's like, I'm going to wait for you anyway. And I'm like, okay, now you got to tell her because your plan isn't even working. She's trying to wait for you anyway. And then finally, she, like, finds someone else and is miserable and wants him back really bad and wants to make dinner for him. It's like the saddest thing you've ever seen.
He like grabs her face and he's like half an inch from her lips and then just pulls himself away, like shows all this restraint.
Yeah, and then it snows for 5 seconds, and it goes back to the same scene, which was incredibly odd.
Yeah, I know that is a really weird editing choice, but what I was reading in the Donald Ritchie book was saying it's a cold separation. I'm like, yeah, but it's just also weird.
Yeah, but you've used this gate to show time passing so many times in this movie, and then suddenly no time passes at all. Like, right when you cut it, literally 0 seconds pass, and I'm like, like, okay, but whatever. That was extremely sad. It reminded me of some people I knew, and it made me very sad.
You know, it winds up being a mixed bag in this movie, but like I think individual moments in this film really work well.
Yeah, there's a lot of like good scenes, but then it doesn't always come together. The scene with Dr. Kyoji and his wife. At that point, I was like, wow, this movie feels like much more like an Ozu film. It's been very pared down, just like character-driven, whatever. And I was getting that feeling for the entire film up until the end, and I was like, oh, it's a Kurosawa.
And you know what? That's honestly, the whole film kind of has that feel to it, where like the cinematography is much more toned down than it's been in
Very
the
much
past,
so.
especially when compared to Drunken Angel right before this. Drunken Angel had huge sweeping shots over that pond and everything.
Yeah, the
This
dancing.
time it's like almost entirely in hallways, and like the composition is great. It's all, you know, very like balanced and it all looks really good, but it's not really special shots happening in this one. He's a little bit more on autopilot with it.
Yeah, one of the things I noticed was like the scene where they're moving the gurney around, the camera's actually following. It's actually almost subtle, because like the camera's moved so little this film that I was like, wait a minute, the camera's actually moving like backwards as they walk through the hallway. That's like a very, almost like modern shot. And it stood out because the camera otherwise has been so passive.
The camera is locked down on tripod for a lot of the film, which is not a bad way to do it. It's just compared to Kurosawa's other things, the cinematography in this one is much more toned down. And I mean, honestly, so is like the subtext of it. Like the whole film is kind of like that. Like the plot is like pretty surface level. I think the plot is good.
Yeah, it's not grand or sweeping.
It's not like Drunken Angel where it's got like all this subtext to it or like extreme symbolism. There is symbolism, but not to the same extent.
Yeah, Drunken Angel is very symbolic, definitely.
The only other real like Kurosawa technique that I noticed was when the crowd of patients arrived in that hallway near the end to see how Nakata reacted to seeing his dead baby. The way that like there's like this whole movement of people and everything, like the emotion is really big.
Yeah, for like the first time in the film.
We're going to see a lot of that kind of stuff. We already have. It reminded me a lot of some of the scenes in The Most Beautiful and other crowd shots that we've had in the past.
Yeah, even like The Man Who Drowned the Tiger's Tail.
Yeah, everyone in the same frame the whole time.
There's sudden crowd work at the end after it was just been like 2 characters in a room the entire movie. And I was like, oh yeah, there's people in this hospital. These characters don't exist in isolation.
You kind of forget that they're patients.
It's just like a house drama that happens to be in a hospital.
Another thing that shows that Kyoji's a really good dude is like the dad of the kid with appendicitis is worried that he's not going to be able to afford to keep the kid here. He's like, dude, don't worry about it. Like, I'll keep him here. I'm not going to kick this poor kid out with appendicitis. It's like, well, that's nice. I wish other doctors thought like that.
Yeah, one of the other guys even comes in there. He's like, damn, your son really just is doing the most, huh? I think it's like revealed several times throughout the film that he like goes out of his way to help like the most misfortunate people in the region and really is this like very saintly figure.
Which again, I think really alludes to Redbeard. Redbeard is all about that kind of thing.
Cool.
He, you know, sees a lot of them in him. Like he's been secretly injecting the medicine for syphilis for a long time. And Minagishi is like noticed that the medicine is always missing and just assumes like one of the patients is stealing it or something. And then finds out like it's the good doctor doing it.
Oh no. This doctor, who's been on my ass for wanting an abortion, is a slut, and then he learns that he's actually the most honorable man in the world. I like the one point at which his dad even says, you know, if he hadn't had such a troubled life, he probably would have been an asshole. He would have been a snob. His suffering made him more noble and a better guy.
Yeah, that felt like a very dad thing to say.
But we learned he's not entirely Mary Sue, because he has, not a flaw, but he does have an internal character struggle, which is he waited 6 years to have sex with his beautiful wife, and then he can't, and he's pretty upset about it.
Yeah, wouldn't you be? Like,
Well, I would be too, but I did not expect him to say it. That was totally shocking to me.
I love his monologue. He is going so good, and I love that it's all like this really long shot, like just following him around. We're really trapped with him in the moment and everything in this room. Kurosawa says that was the single most tense he's ever been filming any shot in his entire career. He said that everyone was so nervous for it because it was such an emotional scene. He was crying. The cameraman was constantly wiping tears from his eyes so he could see through the viewfinder because he was crying. Mifune's crying. Minagishi's crying. They finished it up and he like just didn't call cut because he was so like mesmerized by it. And then he was like, oh, wait, I gotta do this. Like,
Yeah.
It's my job to call cut.
Wait, I'm directing a film, not watching an actual event happen in real life.
Yeah, I'm not watching a man actually have syphilis, unless...
Yeah, that's a beautiful scene and shot. The one thing I did think, I was like, up until that point, Mifune's performance is like pretty subdued. I was like, where's the acting? He hasn't had to do anything besides like be stoic to his wife. And then all of a sudden it all comes out in this like hugely emotional scene.
Yeah, he spent the whole time being super restrained. The whole thing's a rubber band. Whole performance is just getting more and more wound up, and then suddenly pops.
Like a rubber band, he snaps. That scene was already wild from the very beginning when she goes, well, doctor, don't you have human desires? He was like, no, it's fine. Actually, I do have human desires, and it's been killing me for years. I'm gonna lose my goddamn mind.
Funny you mentioned that, I'm secretly miserable.
And he mentioned I want to fuck so bad.
Is this the horniest Kurosawa movie?
Most of his films are extremely not horny, and then for all of that happened was shocking to me. Oh, another thing, my other review was going to be Toshiro Mifune is acting the ultimate struggle of being a hot volcel, a hot voluntarily celibate man who's extremely attractive but can never do it.
Yeah, he's almost an incel.
Yeah, no, he is voluntarily, not due to his own fault, like voluntarily and involuntarily celibate, and he's just so hot, so horned up. It's insane. The struggles this man had to go through.
He shouldn't be able to have sex, but Nakata did, and knocked up his wife. I do really like the other story that's going alongside it with Kyoji, Nakata, and Akiko. When he finally finds the guy again and talks to him and just realizes that he's been totally irresponsible with his illness.
Yeah, that guy's just a total piece of shit, just like has the same exact issue as Kyoji, but just isn't taking it seriously. It's kind of like, you know, someone who's been social distancing very aggressively for 3 months, then you find your friend who's just been like going to parties and doing whatever and endangering tons of people they had COVID. I don't know, morally, it's like almost the same.
I was like, this movie is ringing more true than I expected for that exact reason. Like, we've been doing disease movies back to back, but like...
Yeah, this one really hits home.
I relate to syphilis more than tuberculosis, but not in that way.
Yeah. More in the public shame, you can do something about it. Like, tuberculosis, you're just kind of beat.
Actually, you know what? We could remake this movie right now with coronavirus. It would be the same thing. It'd be like, I can't see my girlfriend because I've got a social distance. Relatable.
Yeah.
And when there's this other guy that's going around giving everyone COVID.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, that would work.
This whole syphilis thing isn't fake news. You've now given your wife syphilis, and your baby too, and like, it's probably not going to live. And I'm glad that they don't show that baby.
I was like, that must be like the Eraserhead baby in there. But
yeah, exactly. That's exactly what I imagined too. It must look like the Eraserhead baby. I'm glad that Kurosawa leaves that to the imagination. Has that nice long shot of the empty hallway as they run in, and then you hear him scream, and then he gets dragged out.
Yeah, done very well. Yeah, no, that whole scene was well performed. He literally just collapses.
You know, he's initially, like, meeting up with Nakata at these bars and everything, and they're getting... You know, it honestly does feel like Drunken Angel, but a reversal now where Mifune is the responsible doctor, trying to tell the guy, hey, dude, please take care of yourself.
I'm begging you.
And he's like, no, I won't. He's clearly, like, I can't imagine him being a great husband. The whole reason that he got found at all was because he, like, beat a police officer over the head during, like, a traffic stop.
Oh, I missed that.
Yeah, that's what caused Toshiro Mifune to go to the police station, because they were like, hey, one of our guys was injured.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
I'm like, why did he do that? I'm glad we have a plot reason to have him show up. He's free to go, which is interesting. I wouldn't expect that, but... Whatever the case, I'm glad something happened to get them together. And then when Akiko, like, comes on her own to be like, I gotta get rid of this baby. Like, I'm literally dying of syphilis. I need to divorce my husband and get away. And he shows up and starts, like, a fight, pretty much.
Yep, starts yelling. I was really hoping Toshiro Mifune would just beat his ass. But
yeah,
actually, Minaguchi hits him first.
She takes him to church, breaks that window, had that cool shattered glass shot with Takashi Shimura walking behind it. That's like just another sad storyline. Intertwines not always super cleanly with his forbidden love storyline, but I really like them both in isolation, even if they don't always mesh well.
Nakata's like a foil to this guy. He's just even more exaggerated because he's like, oh, doctor, you don't know how hard it is to have syphilis.
Yeah, I love how much restraint Kyoji's showing during that.
You can, just see his, like, throb, like, just losing his mind, about to, like, explode.
Yeah, you see him mentally just tearing this man limb from limb, taking all his blood.
Yeah. Oof. Literally just to his face, you don't know what it's like to have syphilis, and that's when Minaguchi's like, wait, you're the one who did it? And she, in a moment of actual compassion, cares about him, which is why I think they should. fuck.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure they might have gotten together in some way later on.
I was a little mad it was left unclear by the film.
I didn't mind that. This film doesn't deal with ambiguity too much, so I'd rather them not have them hook up when he's a heartbroken man who's lost the love of his life.
Well, not actually do it, but like him to say, because she was like, Princess Love out there, like, I think I love you, and he's like, yeah, okay, well, bye. Oh, I think what he does is like, he's like, let's go help a patient.
Yeah, to be fair, Mifune is used to that.
Yeah, like a hot Velso, of course. Yeah, that covers the whole film, plot point by plot point.
So my favorite frame from the Quiet Duel was when Kyoji and Nakata are in one of the bars, and it's Kyoji against the wall, and it's a two-shot, like half and half, but the second half with Nakata in it isn't Nakata sitting next to him, it's actually Nakata's feet against the wall sitting next to him.
His really nice leather shoes. I'll admit, that was mostly what I thought about during the scene.
Yeah, they are nice shoes. I loved how that shows how cavalier and carefree he is.
He's in public at a bar, just feet up on the bench.
Kyoji is just brooding, sitting in all black and everything. And then when he makes a revelation to Nakata, like, you see his shoes stop moving. I thought that was a really nice, subtle way of showing an important character beat. Because, like, it's cutting in between that and another shot of Nakata every once in a while, but that's a real standout for me because I felt like it was just kind of a little weird, but in a good way.
Yeah, I thought that was very nicely done. I was mostly thinking, like, these are really nice leather shoes. What are they? yeah, I also noticed the feet stopping, and, like, they were just moving around the whole time. This is the scene Toshiro Mifune looked best in. I thought he did not look great in all this movie just because the doctor look doesn't look good on him, strangely, because it looks good on most people, but he looked really good in this outside outfit. My favorite shot is one that we talked about, and it's, like, one of the most obviously, like, expressionistic, filmy shots, is after Nakata is, like, having a public freak out in the hospital, and, like, it's knocked into, like, the surgery room or whatever, and he shatters this glass. A minute later, he runs down the hallway. Takashi Shimura walks into the room, and the glass, like, you see a piece fall, and you think, like, it's going to focus into the room, but instead it just stays focused on the plane of view that's the glass, and you see Takashi do stuff behind it, and it, perfectly captures the emotions of the scene where Nakata, like, just had his, like, whole life shattered as he's a stillborn baby, and, the glass is, like, a perfect visual way to express what's going on in the moment, with, like, this emotional climax of the film.
Consider his career ended. But I'll tell you whose career is starting to really skyrocket at this point, and that is Toshiro Mifune, looking hot as ever.
Hell yeah. Does that mean it's time for the Toshiro Mifune hotness scale?
Hell yeah. He looks so much better in this compared to Drunken Angel.
I know he does.
Nice and clean cut. Again, I prefer him with a little more stubble or everything, but I like that he's got the nice clean look. He's dressed real good the whole time. He's standing tall. He's a real gentleman in this film. So that's got to be a 9.5 for me.
All right, man. I respect your opinion. I respect your right to say it. 8. I did not like the way he looked in this film. We're shutting this down. We can't do this. For whatever reason, I just really don't like the way he looks in Scrubs. It just doesn't look good on him. I think he's better as like a roguish type. And even though he does a great job in this role, I truly do mean that. It is weird for him to not be this kind of roguish, like, rule breaker. And I didn't think he looked very good. I thought the best he looked was when he was in his, like, winter coat. Because
not I was like, a lot of guys pull that look off either.
Yeah, so I hate to say it. I'm going to give him an 8, but I expect good things soon. Watch this space.
So let's get on to our final thoughts about The Quiet Duel. For me, I'm in the weird position where, like, I like the movie more than it is good. Like, I'm not liking it for, like, an objective reason. I'm liking it for a more subjective reason.
Yeah, I mean, it's a good film, but it's not, like, an amazing movie. And it's just, like, it's very small. It's a limited in scope film. It takes place in basically one location. About this one character going through a personal struggle, but it's not, like, extremely elevated. It's just, like, a good, solid job all around.
That tickles my personal sweet spot a bit. Like, I really like that kind of plot. I really love, like, the idea of this movie. I think the performances are great. I like a lot of the shots, even if, like, the plot and cinematography are, more pared down than we're used to seeing for Kurosawa. Ultimately, I do think this is a good movie, and I wish that it had a proper release like all of his other films, because it's really weird to have this one excluded from the channel.
Yeah, this is a shame. It's definitely up there with his, like, it's on par. It is weird to have it missing.
It's better than other ones that we've watched.
Yeah, for sure.
I'd give it just around a 7.5, right in the middle of 7 and 8. I think it's good. I think it's up there with the ones we've watched, but a little bit of a step down.
Yeah, I do my ratings out of 5 like a normal person, so I give mine 3.5 out of 5, which is like a 7 out of 10, which is, a good movie. Didn't blow me away, but it wasn't bad.
That's more than most of us can say that we've ever done.
Yeah, I've never made a good movie. I've never made shit.
Well, get ready to see Toshiro Mifune really, really sweaty next week. That's all I can tell you about our next film, Stray Dog.
That's where my ten's coming. That's what I've been saving for. Hell yeah, Stray Dog. I don't know anything about this movie. I assume Toshiro Mifune is the dog. It's because I'm smart like that.
Yeah, Toshiro Mifune plays the dog.
Yeah.
I won't spoil anything about it, but it's another really influential film in a kind of unexpected way.
Very cool.
I'm excited to rewatch it because I haven't seen it in a couple months. But saying I haven't seen it in a couple months is not actually that long, because you usually go like 10 years without watching a movie. But
movie.
Yeah, but I watch Kurosawa all the time because I'm in love with him and Toshiro Mifune.
Of course.
And you, the listener, the single listener listening to this.
Yeah. And you, Harrison Gale.
Anyhow, so check in next week for our review of Stray Dog. See you then.